So hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jonathan. I'm a dietitian that supports people who are struggling with binge eating, and I struggled with binge eating in the past. So I'm here to help you have a binge-free life so you can focus on truly what matters most. Loved ones, celebrating the most you have with this life, and also just enjoying food without feeling any guilt. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining the 8 mistakes I stopped making that can usually trigger binge eating. So now I'm binge free. I haven't binged for like 5 or 6 years now, so I wouldn't want you to make any of these mistakes. So number 1 is people pleasing, and you might be thinking, oh Jonathan, that's a bit strange, people pleasing. It's not really a food related thing with binge eating, but in reality, it's much more to binge eating recovery than just food, which was the mistake I made. I was a massive people pleaser. I kept on saying yes to this, yes to this. I just wanted people to like me, especially when I was a student studying dietetics. I wanted to make a good impression to my uni friends, so I said yes to helping out with lots of things, even though I had tons of studies to do. I said yes to eating out with friends every single time I got asked. I'd be almost out of the house every single day and I wouldn't have enough time to study. So although you say yes to everything, people might see you as like, oh, Jonathan's so helpful, but when you come home, you feel mentally drained, you feel exhausted, you might feel even stressed, you might feel even low in mood, you might feel like, oh, people are just using me. Then you start to have a binge eating episode because you feel like, okay, there's no one else that's gonna judge me for anything aside from food, so I'm gonna have some food right now. I'm gonna order some kebabs, I'm gonna order some pizza, and then tomorrow I'm gonna continue another day of people pleasing. When you're not able to say no to the things you actually want to say no to, then you're invalidating yourself. So you're ignoring most of your emotions throughout the day, and then in the evening you can finally listen to your emotions, and those emotions are screaming out to be heard. So you have a binge eating episode because you just want to feel those emotions through food rather than saying, no, this is what I need to do. And it often comes from the fear of being judged or feeling hated. And what I've learned personally with this mistake of people pleasing is that I took the leap, I said no, and the people who were a bit funny with me, well, it's their choice. I'm not to be their slave, and it might sound a bit mean, but really, if people are using you, then they would be the ones that will feel like hurt, or they would be taking it personally if they're actually using you. You know, if they're not using you, if you say no, and they say, oh, okay, that's alright, no worries, they actually are quite fine with it. Remember, you don't deserve anyone's explanation for your no's. You don't have to say, no, sorry, I can't go to eating out with pizza with you because I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. You don't have to give an explanation. Just say, no, I'm not free, I can't do that. You don't have to explain yourself, because when you explain yourself, it's kinda giving the perception that you're actually like making excuses because you're kinda like a bit shaky and everything, and they might be thinking, something's a bit strange. And also, if you're trying to give too much of an explanation, even if it's a lie, then they might ask you about like, oh, so what did you get up to on this time? You said you were gonna go skiboarding. How was that? And then you might go like, oh, I don't remember saying that, and it'll catch you out. So just say no. No one ever deserves your explanation. If they do, then just be quite honest. Just say like, I don't feel like doing it. If they take it personally, then it's on them. So people pleasing could be a sign of low self-esteem, and that's a side effect of binge eating, because there's this thing called the binge restrict cycle, where you binge eat, then you feel guilty, then you have low self-esteem, and then you jump onto another diet, very restricted diet, and then you binge eat, and then you feel all the guilt, and then you feel you have low self-esteem, and then you jump onto another diet. So it's binge, low self-esteem, diet, binge, low self-esteem, diet. And when you're feeling low in self-esteem, you're trying to get some happiness, approval from other people, and then at the end of the day, you get the happiness, or trying to get a little bit of that dopamine rush from food. It's a terrible cycle, so don't be a people pleaser. No one deserves your no's. The thing is, when you say no, more often, your yeses become much more needed. People will be starting to crave your yeses. People want more from you, and they see your time as very valuable. They look up to you. Mistake number 2 is I kept on mindlessly eating. So mindless eating is the opposite of mindful eating. So what does that mean? So studies have shown that people who are mindless eaters are more likely to binge eat, because binge eating by definition is mindless eating, but mindful eating is the opposite of mindless eating, or it's also known as the opposite of binge eating. So there are studies that show that people who have lower emotional intelligence but higher dietetic knowledge, they know about macros, micros, calorie deficits, all those kinds of things. Even if you have lower emotional intelligence, then you're more likely to mindlessly eat and struggle with binge eating. Mindless eating is oftentimes eating on autopilot. You're not really enjoying the food. Have you ever had a binge eating episode where you just eat the food And then for the first 5 minutes, it's enjoyable. And then the next 30 minutes, you're not really enjoying it. You're not really tasting it. You feel like you're being possessed. You're just eating the food. You feel like you're just watching yourself eat for just the fact of not getting the satisfaction from the food. You're just trying to finish the food. You're trying to get rid of the house. You're trying to put it in your stomach because it wouldn't be safe in the bin. It would have be safe if you put it back into the cupboard. So you're just trying to get rid of it, trying to clear out the house by putting it in your mouth. And then you feel guilty. Back when I was in university, I used to have lectures from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Really long lectures. It's very different from having a 9-to-5 job, because having a 9-to-5 job, which I'm having right now as a dietitian, you're always working, you're having something to do. But if you're just staring at the screen, staring at PowerPoints, within the first 30 minutes, I would start to feel really sleepy. And then at the end of the day, I'll tell myself, okay, I deserve this, I'm gonna eat the food. And it's completely fine if you want to eat the food, if you want to eat like foods which are quite sweet, cookies, cakes, and brownies, and donuts, all those kinds of things. But the thing is, if you eat them mindlessly, then you're not gonna get satisfaction out of it. You're gonna eat one donut, and then next donut, then next donut. But if you mindfully eat, if you practice mindful eating, you eat the donut, you feel the sensations mindfully of the satisfaction of having the donut, the nostalgic memories, the what flavor it is. Can you actually taste what flavor it is? Because some people just eat the donut and get on with it. Being mindful means you'll be much more satisfied psychologically really quickly. On that note, mindless eating can also lead to emotional eating. So I'm gonna pop into the screen the emotional color wheel, because when we struggle with emotional eating, which could be coming from mindless eating, because mindless eating could be a result of emotional eating as well. Because when we're so full of our emotions, you wouldn't want to sit down mindfully and be like, oh, so this donut is really good, I remember nostalgic memories. You're so focused on the emotions, like let's say you had a breakup, you're just eating the food to try to make yourself feel better. But when we think about it, when you're emotionally eating, what emotions are you actually feeling? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling fearful? If you look at the emotion wheels, if I look at the angry bit, because like let's say you had a breakup for example, you could say you're angry, but what's a deeper reason? I could say I'm humiliated. I might feel, in a deeper level, disrespected. It'd be really good to just understand what emotions you're actually feeling, because feeling angry or feeling sad is not the deeper emotion. You might be feeling, looking at the sad bit, you might be feeling grief, you might be feeling fragile, you might be feeling inferior. So yeah, check the emotional color wheel. That's a really good way to find out emotion. So number 3 is to put dieting on hold. So as a mistake, back in uni, I was always dieting, binge eating, dieting, binge eating. And as I mentioned with the binge restrict cycle, binge eat, then feel guilty, then diet. Binge eat, feel guilty, then diet. You're in this never-ending cycle of trying to make up for the last binge. You want to go to a diet because after a binge eating episode, you feel like you've eaten so many calories. Subjectively and maybe objectively, you've eaten so many calories, and then the next day you try to skip breakfast so you can undo the calories that you've eaten. But this is promoting a deprivation mindset. You're telling your body, oh, there's no food coming in? Your body needs to ramp up those hunger hormones, which is making you more likely to binge eat later in the day. So if you put dieting on hold by, aka, not jumping onto a diet, so just continue having a normal breakfast, continue eating lunch, continue eating as if you're not on a diet at all. It's very difficult mentally to do that. But if you do that, then you can get into this regular mindset of having breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch, mid-afternoon snack, dinner, and maybe an evening snack. You're splitting this meals throughout the day, and then you're telling your body, okay, there's no deprivation going on. I'm gonna re-regulate your hunger hormones, hunger cues. I'm not gonna feel extremely hungry in the evening. I'm gonna feel full throughout the day, and I'm much less likely to binge eat throughout the day. A second thing is, you need to be full and satisfied. So being full by eating regular meals throughout the day, try to be a 7 or 8 out of 10 full, and you have to be satisfied. Because I could be full by eating plain chicken breast and broccoli and rice, but it's not really enjoyable for me. So I need to try to be satisfied. So I'd rather have like garlic honey chicken with broccoli and rice with a teriyaki glaze. That would be delicious, full, filling, and satisfying. And it contains vegetables, the broccoli, protein, the chicken, and carbs, rice, and the fats has some like olive oil glaze. That's really delicious. That's a balanced meal. That's how I put dieting on hold. Make my meals delicious and filling and eat regular meals. So a little bit of a story time. When I started going to the gym, I got stronger and stronger and stronger in my lifts, but at the same time, I got quite bulked up. And in anyone's gym journey, you really want to get that amazing six-pack at least once in your life. So I tried to get it, and I knew I had to have a calorie deficit. So I set a really strict calorie deficit, and it was going well. I got really close to the six-pack, but I actually got a four-pack, and I was in uni this time. And then I was thinking, okay, this is going really well. Then I'd be invited for a meal with friends, pizza, meal with family, buffet, birthdays, celebrations, summertime, eating out with friends, barbecues. So I'd be over my calorie limit on certain days, and then I tried to undo these calories by skipping breakfast, skipping lunch, having a plain salad, then going to bed really hungry. And what's this doing is actually promoting the binge restrict cycle. I was restricting, and then I'd binge eat later on, and it was extremely mentally exhausting. So what I had to do was to take the leap and just put dieting on hold. Because we need to see binge eating as not the problem, but it's actually a symptom of deprivation. If we see binge eating as a symptom, not a problem, then it removes any guilt that it's our fault. I like to think of this analogy that binge eating is a natural part of our human response to any form of deprivation. So, for example, like if you hold yourself to not use the toilet as much as possible, you wet yourself, you pee yourself. If you're freezing cold and you don't put any layers of clothing, then you're gonna shiver. If you avoid food, calories as much as possible, whether it's physical fullness or mental fullness, aka enjoying the meals, cookies, cakes and donuts, then you're going to binge eat. So if you want to learn more on how to overcome these binge eating triggers, mental restriction, physical restriction, all or nothing mindset, then check the link in the description for my free How to End Binge Eating Masterclass webinar. It's free, and I go through all of the triggers of binge eating and how to overcome all of these triggers, as well as showing you a proper meal plan of what a typical day in the life should look like, and explaining in depth why each of these habits can actually help reduce your binge eating urges or even put an end to binge eating. So sign up for the webinar now in the link in the description of this video. So number 4 mistake, which I wish I should have done, is to eat for balance and to not focus too much on calories and macros. Try to be as nutritious as possible. So story time. During COVID, at the start of COVID-19 coronavirus, when we were all housebound essentially, then I would live with my mum and my brothers, and we'd cook amazing meals, quite high in fat meals and pastas that were like lathered in butter, because we were telling ourselves, it's nice to be around the family, let's enjoy this. And then I'd have it so many times often. I'd also like order fish and chips, I'd also order KFC, and I was just in this habit of just eating all the food and then literally just lying down 5 minutes after and just have a long afternoon nap, because at this time I finished my placement and I wasn't doing anything. So most of my days just looked like eating, sleeping, watching Netflix, eating, sleeping, watching Netflix. And interestingly enough, very interestingly enough, I actually got like shooting pains in my stomach, extremely painful. There were actually like 2 or 3 days where I actually didn't sleep at all. I was propped up in bed because I couldn't lie down. It was hurting so much that I had to be rushed into A&E, the emergency department. And I was thinking to myself, as a dietitian with my dietetic knowledge, gallstones? Why would I get gallstones? I'm not high risk. I'm not overweight category, or I'm not obese, I'm not over 40. I guess my diet's alright, but I never thought it would happen to me. So what they had to do is just give me like some anti-sickness medications, because of the pain, it was so painful that I actually started to feel sick and almost like puke myself. And then eventually the gallstones passed. I didn't have to like have them removed or anything, but it was such a scary moment. But the point I'm trying to get here is try not to focus too much on calories and macros, because I can easily be in a calorie deficit, or maintain my calories even on this very high fat diet, which is highly processed and not good for my gut. But I wasn't really focusing on fruits and vegetables. I wasn't focusing on fiber because I was only focusing on protein and calories. I would only have 2 meals a day because I would only like wake up at like 11 to have lunch, a big lunch, and then a big dinner. And I'd still be in a calorie deficit, but the quality of my diet was really poor. So number 5 is you should work out to get stronger and not less of yourself. Become more of yourself, but not less of yourself. So what do I mean by that? So it's very easy when you're trying to cut, to work out, to lose weight, try to run on the treadmill, trying to be in the exercise bike, trying to join workout classes to lose weight, try to be less of yourself because you're punishing yourself. In reality, the better mindset, which I should have done back when I was younger, is I should work out to get stronger or either improve my aerobic capabilities. Because by evidence, losing weight using exercise is extremely poor method. It's not very efficient, it's not optimal, because running in the treadmill for 1 hour, it's the same as like just probably having like one Snickers bar. You can overcome that because your body's really good at conserving energy. But when I was in the gym, it would feel like I was whipping myself to burn my calories off, when in reality I was actually, it was working out in vain. I wasn't getting stronger, I wasn't getting more fit aerobically with my endurance. I would feel out of breath when I'd be running, and then I would lift exactly the same weight as I was lifting 4 years ago because I was trying to get stronger. And then I feel, okay, Jonathan, you gain a little bit of more weight, try to bring your weight down again. And then I'd get up and down, up and down, up and down, and then I would be plateauing my lifts because I'm not focusing on getting stronger or improving my aerobic capabilities by running or trying to run as farther as I can, farther than last time. I was actually worried about my weight. I was worried about having this wrong mindset. So long story short, what I'm trying to say is work out to get stronger and improve yourself. Don't work out to whip yourself out of guilt. Nowadays, I'm trying to work out to get stronger. It's important to focus more on health. It's fun to talk about trying to control your weight, trying to get six-pack abs, but once you get over 30 age, studies show that we actually lose 3 to 8% of our muscle mass every 10 years. So it's important to get stronger as much as possible, get as much muscle as possible obviously without steroids if you are willing, and also try to run as far as we can. Number 6 is to start mechanical eating. So to overcome binge eating, one of the best things I did for my binge eating recovery is to start mechanical eating. So what is mechanical eating? Mechanical eating is eating consistently regular meals throughout the day. So it would be in a structured way. So that would look like breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch, mid-afternoon snack, dinner, and then evening snack. And at the moment, as I'm saying this, if you're thinking right now, oh Jonathan, that's tons of food right now, I'm gonna gain tons of weight, then you might be struggling with portion distortion. Because when we struggle with binge eating, we're only having feast or famine, large meals or very little meals. But when we're talking about 3 meals a day and 2 to 3 snacks in between, you'll realize the size of what a portion's meant to look like to fuel yourself throughout the day. Because when we have this mindset of feast or famine, it's either very low in energy or you're extremely lethargic and sick and dizzy. Because what I found with people who struggle with binge eating is that they almost never have any breakfast at all because they feel like they've eaten so much in the evening. But what this is doing is telling your body, okay, no breakfast, little lunch, I'm gonna ramp up my hunger cues for the evening. So mechanical eating helps restore those hunger cues so it's in a balanced way. You're not releasing too much hunger hormones in the evening. Your ghrelin hunger hormone is not being really high in the evening. At the same time, you're trying to split out your hunger release, the hunger hormones release, by little bits of tidbits throughout the day instead of a massive rise in the evening, which is making you more likely to struggle with binge eating in the evening. It's like this caveman theory I like to tell people and clients, that if you are a caveman back in the prehistoric eras, this would be really helpful because you wouldn't wake up with a fridge or you wouldn't wake up with a box of cereal when you're a caveman. You'd literally wake up with nothing. So you'd be having this urge to just hunt for a mammoth, and then in the evening time you hunt the mammoth and then you eat a massive mammoth and then you go to bed, and then next morning there's nothing in the morning. The thing is that when you hunt that mammoth in the evening, you're being filled with adrenaline. But the thing with this evening hunting for that mammoth, you get filled with adrenaline. You'll do anything, even at the cost of your life, to get food, aka binge eat. So that's why you feel almost like you're having this state of adrenaline when you're having a binge eating episode, because you finally give in to the food. You literally do anything to get that food in, that binge eating episode in. But nowadays we have packaged cereal, we can store bread, we can have meals in our fridge. So it's important to have breakfast, lunch and dinner with 2 to 3 snacks in between. When you eat your meals, try to be a 7 or 8 out of 10 fullness. Not a 10 out of 10 where you feel Christmas dinner full, but not like a 0 out of 10 where you feel extremely hungry. Try to be comfortably full, and the more you do this, trying to hit that comfortably full mode, your body will try to recognize this. It'll try to stay there like, oh okay, so this is what comfortable fullness is. Because at the same time, if we struggle with binge eating for so long, our body doesn't even know what comfortable fullness is. We have portion distortion, we have dysregulated meal patterns, we don't really have a regular meal pattern, and we also have our body not recognizing what comfortable fullness is. So mechanical eating can get you there. It's also important to make sure that you eat the meals which are quite enjoyable. So soon I'm going to be making a video on how to create meals, how to transform meals so they can become meals that don't make you want to crave food later throughout the day. So that's gonna be soon. I'm just thinking about how I can make it a quite fun video. I'm probably gonna give like lots of photos. No, I'm actually gonna video it and then explain each meal. I'm just thinking at the moment how I can like create that video. Maybe if this video isn't out yet, the next video on how to transform your meals to make them binge resistant, quote unquote. If this video is already out, which I'm talking about right now, on how to transform your meals to make them binge free, then check over here. If there's nothing popping up here, then you're quite early to the show and look out for that video. So number 7, very briefly, is to become consistent with this meal pattern, because if you're consistent with a meal pattern and trying to overcome these binge eating urges, then you will overcome binge eating. Because the thing I want to point out is, if you're consistent and sticking with the plan, you will be binge free if you're doing everything, that all the measures in place that can eliminate binge eating urges. Because it's very easy to think, if you struggle with binge eating 5 times a week, to jump straight to 0 times a week if you implement the best plans in the world. But you have to be realistic with yourself. You have to be consistent and stick to the plan. If you go from 5 binges a week to next week 4 binges in the week, it can be easy to lose sight of the smaller picture. We need to focus on right now. You've reduced your binges, and that's already a massive win. Just stay consistent. If you feel like on Sundays you reduced your binges in the week to 2 binges and then the next week you get 3, then don't be discouraged. Stay consistent, and then it should hopefully decrease if you put all the measures in place. So consistency is always the key. And number 8 is just to simply just be kind with yourself. I know it sounds quite patronizing, but with this struggle of binge eating, it's easy to beat yourself up. It's easy to fall into a spiral of guilt, shame, and embarrassment. But if you're kind with yourself, if anything, that's what's gonna push you forwards to becoming binge free, because it's easy to fall into guilt, shame, and embarrassment after a binge eating episode. But if you understand that binge eating is a symptom, it's not a problem, it's not your fault, you're not lazy, you're not lacking willpower, you're not binge eating because you're not hustling hard enough, or you're not doing monk mode, stuff like all those kinds of toxic stuff like that, you're kind to yourself after a binge, then it's gonna be very easy to continue to be consistent and even end binge eating episodes. Not trying to beat yourself up is the best thing I can tell anyone to overcome binge eating. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, if you want to learn how to end binge eating, join my 1 hour long free binge eating masterclass where I can show you all the triggers to binge eating and how to overcome all of them with a meal plan. And like, subscribe, and comment below which tip was the most insightful for you. Does any of these tips resonate with you? And I'll see you in the next video. So see you, friends!